We all know that for some people, the Christmas season, holy as it is, brings sometimes anxieties, depression, worries, fears, whatever. And for all the joys of the messages of Christmas, it is for some people a difficult time for many reasons. And sometimes one of the reasons is that we think that none of these fears or anxieties or worries or whatever should be upon us at Christmas time. There's words, one of the lines from a Christmas carol is, "And why on earth should men be so sad since our Redeemer has made them glad?" And that is a true statement or a true thought, but at the same time, yes, we still have reasons not to be so happy all the time. And it occurred to me this week that this feast of the Epiphany, the image of the Magi, might have something to say about that. Now, I realize most of the images we see of the Magi are of them at the stable, kneeling in front of the Christ child, offering him their gifts. But I'd like to give you a different image of the Magi, one that came from two of the Christmas cards that I received this year. Only a handful, really, 7 or 8 maybe, were of the Magi. And most of them were, as I said, they were in front of the stable, or at least Jerusalem was in sight. But there were 2 that just had the Magi on their camels in the middle of nowhere with just the star in front of them. And I offer you this image because although most of the time we think of the Magi as arrived at the stable, we can forget that it took them many months of difficult travel to get there. Even think about this. The gospel I just read is 15 or 16 sentences. Only 2 or 2.5, I guess, have the Magi in front of the baby Jesus. Most of the story really is about them going there and leaving again. And we can forget that in this star that guided them did not take away the difficulties or uncertainties or even the dangers of their travel. I'll give you another image, the Blessed Mother. Usually we can look at the Blessed Mother, and certainly in the stable, see her adoring her newborn baby. And we forget the difficulties that attended this event. It's funny, we pray the joyful mysteries, right? And so one of the joyful mysteries is the Annunciation. Here's the angel presenting this glorious vocation to Mary. But we know she was troubled and uncertain what the greeting meant, and she must have been upset, or the angel wouldn't have said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary." But as wonderful as it was to be chosen to be the Mother of God, it also put her at some risk. And one of the risks was losing her betrothed, right? You have to remember the darker parts of this story. And The Nativity is one of the joyful mysteries. And we can look at that and forget, okay, this was a woman 9 months pregnant that had to travel on a donkey somewhere. I'm guessing that would have to be somewhat difficult. And had nowhere to have her baby. Right? And we forget this, no one to have it with. I mean, at home, she would have had her cousins or, or aunts or other women or something to help her. There she was with Joseph. I'm sure Joseph, saintly as he was, had little experience in delivering babies. And so this stable is not this romantic thing that sometimes it can feel like, right? We keep going into joyful mysteries, the presentation of Jesus in the temple, which I'm sure was a moment of joy for a Jewish mother to present her child to be circumcised, and now he's part of the covenant. But we also have to remember that what we call a joyful mystery, in that sense, is also one of the 7 sorrows of Mary, in that devotion of the 7 sorrows, because it was also when Simeon made his prophecy that a sword would pierce her heart. And what we call in the joyful mysteries, the finding of Jesus in the temple, is another one of the 7 sorrows of Mary, the losing of Jesus. Right? And we can pray the finding of Jesus in the temple and forget that they spent 2 days looking for him in the caravan. Then they had to travel back alone to Jerusalem. Probably took them a couple of days. And then spent 3 more days in Jerusalem looking for him. And so, any of you certainly who are parents, it doesn't take a parent, but certainly you parents can imagine the panic that must have attended that. And I find it even interesting that there are 5 joyful mysteries, and there are 7 sorrows of Mary. Right? And so, it's worthwhile, I think, pondering these things, because Christmas is not meant to be the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of the story. And so, if your life wasn't perfect this Christmas, or if Christmas wasn't perfect, it doesn't mean there's anything necessarily wrong with you or wrong with your life. Christmas is not the celebration of the perfect. It's a celebration of the beginning of what is imperfect being made perfect. And so, if we think of some of the images of Christmas, joy to the world, and we think, well, I am not joyful all the time in my life. The world is not full of joy everywhere. But the joy of this event really did come into the world, and joy is available to us. Or peace on earth. Iraq, Iran, Syria, Florida. Where's peace on earth? But peace has come into the world with Jesus' birth. And peace is a possibility, and we know that one day there will be. And there can be peace in our lives even as we live through our difficulties. The light has come into the world. That doesn't mean there's no darkness. Scripture says, Isaiah, a light has shone in the darkness. Just as the star was guiding the Magi through places with which they were not familiar. So the light of the world, Jesus, has come into the world. That's a true fact and a real fact. That doesn't mean all darkness is gone from our lives. But the more we turn our lives over to Christ, the more light will be in our lives. So in the midst of anything in your life that's not joyful, on the heels of this Christmas season, in the midst of your life which may not be completely free of darkness, in the midst of your life which may not be completely peaceful, completely free of anxieties or worries, we remember this image not so much of the Magi kneeling before Jesus, but the Magi searching for Jesus with the sure light of the star. We have the sure light of the Scriptures and the church, and God's teaching through the church. If we follow that, if we follow Jesus, we will reach our destination of peace and joy, light and salvation. But for a while yet, we may still have to walk through darkness and anxieties and worries. But as Paul says, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. If we do that, the message of the Magi can be that we can have hope that we will be brought to our final destination.